Let's go.
Yo, what's cracking, Rome?
What up, CB3? How goes it?
Man, just another day here to talk about how Barbie is apparently threatening men everywhere, worldwide.
It's real.
Shit is
The
fire right now.
hysteria is real.
Everywhere on the internet and in the online sphere, everybody
Barbie
losing their
mania.
minds
It's crazy.
about Barbie.
Straight chaos in the
Everybody's
streets.
Yeah. So we're here today to talk about the Barbie movie. Is it a threat to men everywhere? Because apparently there's a lot of stuff out about how the Barbie movie is an anti-masculine production about anti-men and anti-patriarchy, and a lot of men are losing their damn minds. So we're here today to break it down, talk about it. We got some great articles. We got some articles from Time, Psychology Today, from some newspapers. We got some videos. We're going to look at some stuff. It's a beautiful day to be here with you and to talk about masculinity through a very real trend right now, the Barbie movie.
I'm excited, man. Can't wait. It is Barbie mania. However,
yes, it is.
Before we get started, what is the gut level, Chris? What is that?
The gut level, guys. Safe, inclusive community. So look, if you're a human being, you're welcome here. So we're here to share with you our journey into masculinity, our journey through this thing called life, to open up the door to authentic and vulnerable conversations, a lot of which we don't think that men are having in many places. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment below, join the community.
Yo, the gut level, man. We are having conversations, deep, meaningful conversations about the stigmas and stereotypes surrounding being a man and as well as men's issues. Also diving into today's hottest topics, such as the Barbie movie that recently came out and whether or not it is in fact threat to Chris and to me and to you and to men everywhere. So
yeah,
decided to dive into that. It's the gut level. It's the gut level. Yeah, it's the gut level. It's the gut level.
You have now tuned into the Gut Level podcast.
So, welcome. And let's dive into a couple of things first, Rome. Curious, what are you reading right now?
Well, currently not reading anything super spiritual. My favorite author is Ray Bradbury, and so I decided to go back through some of my favorite books of all time. And currently, I'm in the middle of Dandelion Wine by Ray Bradbury. Fantastic read. If you've never read that author before, definitely go check him out. It's kind of sci-fi, kind of weird, different, unique. You might like it.
All right. Excellent. I'm reading Ultra Marathon Man. So you might be curious about why in the hell somebody would decide to run 100 miles or 200 miles. And if you are, and that's something that sparks curiosity, Ultra Marathon Man is definitely a classic. Quick reminder, we'll have links to everything down in the show notes in the description. So check it out below if you're curious. Ultra Marathon Man. Now, let's go with one more question, Rome, before we really dive in today to the hot topic. All right. So
hit me.
Let's see. Here we go. A goal that you've set for yourself that you're excited about.
Well, my semester just started. I'm in school. Some of you guys know that. I'm working towards becoming a doctor someday. So you guys will all have to call me Dr. Rome. But I'm in school. Throughout my college career, I've always settled for C's, passing grades, because I'm just like, whatever, I just want to get this over with and not stress too much. But this last semester, I challenged my kids to get straight A's. You know, one of them's in third grade. The other one just started high school. So I've decided to also accept that challenge. And I've set a goal to get straight A's this semester. So there we go. Dr. Rome.
Excellent.
What about you, Chris? What's a goal that you have set that you are excited about?
I'm ready to start climbing some mountains.
Oh,
For people that know me and people that know us, got some mountains to climb coming up. Leaving in a week here. Super stoked. Going to be in
Oh,
California, the Sierra Nevadas, and climbing a bunch of big peaks and doing some crazy shit. So
Yes.
super excited to just be in the mountains, relax, be in the quiet. And it's been about 6 months in planning. So we will follow up and let you know, probably some recorded videos from the trail, a little gut level out
Yes.
there doing the deal. So we'll definitely get back to you on that. Boom.
Oh, exciting, man. I'm nervous for that, but it's going to be
Right?
incredible, per
I know.
usual.
So, as usual, guys, we talk here at the gut level about one experience. We have 2 perspectives, ours, and then we have 3 invitations for you. So, I guess let's start this off, Roman. You and I have been seeing a lot out there on the Barbie movie and just the frenzy from millions of people. I mean, it just came out that it's the highest grossing blockbuster movie from Warner Brothers. It just surpassed The Dark Knight.
No way. The Dark Knight.
So it's brought more money in for Warner Brothers than The Dark Knight, which, shout out Christopher Nolan, Heath Ledger.
That's
Dark Knight,
unbelievable.
one of my favorites ever, but just surpassed that. So there is mania around Barbie. And we've got this Barbie Oppenheimer. And then kind of what we're here to talk about today is a lot of the chaos that we're starting to see around how men are reacting to the Barbie movie. So let's start with you, Roman. Let's get your perspective on this, as I know you've seen the Barbie movie.
Yeah, so this will be great, man, because you haven't seen the Barbie movie. That being said, having seen the Barbie movie, in relation to some of this chaos right now, I gotta say, man, I didn't leave the theater feeling like an overwhelming sense of, wow, this is going to be big, for society, or this is going to piss some people off, or this is going to change the narrative around certain things. I didn't leave the theater feeling any of that. Now, I was with my daughter, so my experience was a shared experience with an 8-year-old girl. And so her excitement about, watching this live action Barbie movie about dolls that she's been playing with since she was a kid, I kind of also had that same excitement. Not that I've ever played with Barbies personally, but I was excited for her, and I was excited that she had that experience. And there was not a single moment afterwards where I was questioning whether or not, this was going to have any long-standing implications on her or me. So I'm really excited to dive into this breakdown, break it down with you. I'm looking forward to hearing your perspective, having not seen this, but mine was a decent movie. I enjoyed it. I would watch it again.
I appreciate that, because it's an interesting perspective, thinking that, like, hey, you walked out of the movie, like, didn't really have much thought about it. And all of a sudden now we're starting to see all this come up in the media around how like men are responding. So it's just an interesting perspective that you have like you didn't really feel it. And now there's a lot about it for us to talk about.
Yeah, a lot of this was a bit unexpected for me, to be honest, all this chaos and craziness. So before we break down, Chris, I would love to hear your perspective on the Barbie movie and its potential threat to men everywhere.
I mean, look, you mentioned it. I haven't seen the movie, so it'll be another interesting perspective where, like, I'm putting thoughts together out of reading articles and watching videos and talking to people and just getting a sense of that. I will say at first glance, and look, I'm always happy to shift my opinion and change my opinion, but I think it's kind of crazy how the world seems to be losing its goddamn mind over a movie about dolls that were designed for girls. So anyways, I'm with you that, like, I want to dive into this and get a sense of get a sense of what's really going on and what the opinions are out there. And, look, I'll be interested to see, is the Barbie movie a threat to men? Here we like to try to ask the right questions and not say that we have the answers or the solutions. So, I'm totally open to the idea, and maybe, in all honesty, maybe my masculinity is being threatened. I don't really know. So, hey, let's dive into it, though.
Let's break it down.
All right. So I know we've got video to take a look at. I know I've got some articles.
Yes.
One thing I'd love to start with, just because I think this is a fantastic quote about the movie, that it has been labeled as a man-hating feminist propaganda, a 2-hour woke-a-thon brimming with feminist lectures and nuclear-level rage against men, and a deeply anti-man movie in which every male character is either an idiot, bigot, or loser. Boom. That's a lot.
What?
I know, right? So that's from the
my
Charlotte
goodness.
Observer.
Okay.
So
Charlotte.
And again, they were quoting, they're saying this is a quote they got from somewhere else. So not the opinion of the Charlotte Observer, just saying that was an observation and a quote that they had in an article about this, which I thought was a great way to start us off.
That's great segue into the breakdown. First and foremost, man, that quote is irresponsible. It's like past the point of crazy. It's just irresponsible, man. You know, having seen the movie, there's not a single part of that I would agree with. And, you know, I came into watching the movie like as neutral as one could be, you know. I didn't necessarily want to watch it. I went there with my kid, but like I'm neutral. And I think it's crazy that you have this side over here that's like, oh my God, it's such a threat to masculinity and it's a feminist propaganda machine. And then you have this side over here that's like, yes, women empowerment and social rights and equality. And like those two sides are so far apart. And that they're throwing out these crazy claims, man, back and forth. And there's an abundance of it all over the internet. You search up anything Barbie movie related on the internet right now, you're going to find crazy stuff like that quote that Chris just shared. And it just baffles me, man. It just baffles me. But I guess that might be a screenshot of where we are today as a society here in the United States. I mean, that's a much bigger conversation, but it's a bit baffling, man, and I think it's highly irresponsible.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that quote probably came from somebody that shouldn't have been quoted, as you mentioned, from an irresponsible perspective. That, you know, there's a lot of people out there with a lot to say. We live in the world of Twitter, and you put something online and it goes viral, and right. And so who knows what's going on with somebody at this time, and who knows if, you know, their wife left them, or, you know, they lost their job to a woman, or whatever the kind of things. But for me, what really resonates with a quote like that, though, is, and a buddy of mine had recommended this book a while ago, and we'll throw it down in the show notes as well, is this book by Bell Hooks called Will to Change. And it's a book written about masculinity and patriarchy, really from it's a woman's perspective. But actually it was really impactful to help me take a look at kind of these things that are just real, right? Like patriarchy exists, like, you know, masculinity is going through a big crisis right now in a lot of ways, which we can talk about. It's, you know, a lot of people, it's bad to be a fucking man, and you can't be a man, and you can't be strong, and you can't this, and that's all toxic. It's like, first off, like, narrative. Hey, just relax, right? Like, men are strong, men are protectors, men are providers. Like, you know, these things don't mean that we're toxic. Right. You know, and so our expansiveness means that we can be those things while also being vulnerable, being authentic, being connected, being strong, having a good sense of self, all of this. So anyways, without getting too far off on tangent, a quote from that book that I really think resonates with the quote we just heard is, a man who is unabashedly and unequivocally committed to patriarchal masculinity will both fear and hate all that the culture deems feminine and womanly. And I think, like, that's a great example, right? Like, this is a movie about dolls built for girls. Yes. And the reaction we're getting seems so angry because we're actually saying, like, oh yeah, like, let's take a funny comical look at patriarchy, and let's take a look at some of these things. And it's like, instead of saying, yeah, interesting perspective, you know, it's like, oof, we're just getting this like massive rage and anger towards it, because culture is saying like, this is, you know, this is like, this is something, this is comedy, like, you know, this movie about dolls.
Yeah, I think to that quote that you just referenced, you know, it's specifically talking about, you know, what a lot of people might call toxic masculinity, right? And I think it goes kind of both ways. I think if you deal in absolutes on either side, you're typically going to be in the wrong. And I think that those who deal in these absolutes by saying that this is absolutely, you know, a threat to masculinity, that's not correct. And those that say that this is absolutely not a threat to masculinity, well, you're probably not correct either, right? I think everything is a variation of somewhere on the spectrum. And this movie falls directly there. I mean, did the movie address patriarchy? Yes. Did it do it in a comical way and kind of make fun of it? Yeah. Now, did the director have, you know, underlying intentions to subvert the audience and put these, you know, possibly? I have no idea, right? But could you assume, or could you make a conspiracy about it? Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. You can do that about anything. So I think that, you know, whether intended or not, I think that we have gone past the point of watching a movie for entertainment, and not just movies, man, all forms of media. It's no
Yeah.
longer like for entertainment purposes only. And that movie was entertaining. Now, if you dive deep into it and you look through it through the glasses of someone who's trying to find, you know, evidence of this feminist movement, then you're bound to find it, right? You'll find what you're looking for in anything. And I think we have a tendency to do that now today more than ever. YouTube videos, Facebook posts, Instagram, you know, IG stories, like anything today can be an outlet to share your thoughts and views and beliefs, and is also an outlet for people to ridicule, um, for people to, you know, make crazy allegations about, you know, perceive it in their own ways, misperceive it perhaps. Like, it's just kind of strange, man, on a societal level where we are today. And I'm not sure, you know, as we take a look back through history, I'm not sure it was always this way, you know. And that's not saying it's bad or good or either. I'm just saying it's different, you know, where we are
Yeah,
today.
for sure. I mean, look, we can, I mean, well, I'll call it what I feel like it is, right? That like, God, we're really, really sensitive.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then what I'll say next is that, like, look, I am a sensitive man.
Totally.
Like, I'm super emotional. Like,
Right.
I'm sensitive. I feel things really deeply. I have like super strong emotions, all of this. So I'm not saying like, you know, don't be sensitive in that way.
No, by no means.
I'm paying attention and I'm present, and right, and I have these feelings and all of this. But I think when it comes to that, it's like, I mean, you think about Chappelle Show.
Oh my goodness, bro.
And think about Chappelle Show running today. Like,
it couldn't.
It couldn't, right? And so it's even when we think about comedy, right? And like Dave Chappelle's literally making fun of himself most of the time.
Yeah.
Like, and yet, a lot of that stuff today is just like not okay. It's not okay to we have to be politically correct, quote unquote, with everything. And it's like, hey, can't we just like make a movie about dolls? I mean, I haven't seen it, but like,
seriously,
Barbies were dolls primarily for girls.
Yeah,
that's how they were marketed. A movie was made about it. And I agree with you. Look, directors are creative. I imagine that she was behind the scenes saying, hey, how could I put some light to this? How could I shed some light on this? How can I bring this to the attention of women and girls and men and boys and all of this? And at the end of the day, I'm kind of with you that I don't personally believe that there's like a homosexual mafia or like a feminist movement that's coming to steal my masculinity.
Lock the doors. Close the windows.
Like I just so I think it's important, like as men, right? Like we take a step back, as you mentioned, it's easy to jump on Twitter and all of a sudden the algorithm is feeding you all the stuff about how Barbies they're coming for you and they're trying to steal this. And it's like, look, like put the screen down, take a second and like evaluate my life, evaluate what I think a man is.
Yeah.
Like what's important to me, what are the people I look up to, right? And define that for myself. And then to your point, like I can be far more objective when I know what I feel like a man should be versus what I think a movie is propagandically placing inside of the depths of my brain to change the way I feel about men or women.
Totally, man. Totally. I couldn't agree more. And it's like, you know, for as long as I can remember, art and comedy have both been like, hey, these are safe, right? Like anything that you do that's artistic or that's comedy is safe. Like it could be as absurd, as offensive, as whatever is possible, but it's safe from ridicule, judgment, and taking offense to. And that's
Sure.
why the Chappelle Show worked for so long. And I think finally our society has stopped viewing those two as safe. And so now it kind of seems like nothing's safe, man. Like nothing is safe from ridicule, from judgment, from somebody taking offense. But my question for you is, oh, go ahead.
All right. No, I was just going to finish off by saying, look, guys, like, we're not saying that patriarchy is not real. We're not saying that women have not been victimized. We're not saying that a movement around empowering women should not happen. We are not saying that toxic masculinity is not real. We actually are saying all those things are
totally
real, and we agree with them.
Yes.
And we've talked about them on previous episodes. It's just important, I think, to circle back to like, if I'm confident in who I am as a human being, then I don't have to worry about the way that a movie portrays, even if the whole intention, even if it was a completely manipulative, Hollywood-driven manipulation, attempting to manipulate the entire world and all the men and all the women and all of this.
Right.
It's still not going to influence me to change the way I show up in a relationship in a negative way. It actually may mean that I take a look and go, hey, I never thought about that. And I got a great next piece I want to move into. I know you have a question, but that's kind of on that theme, which is that like stuff like this can also help us to gain insight into the way that we show up in the world, which is like what we're doing here at the gut level is like, look, if you're here and you're listening, it's because you're like, hey, like I want to continue to grow and have insight and ask good questions and and like define what masculinity is for me and not from what the media says or what Chris and Rome say.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, that was you answered my question in that I was just going to share that, if you are confident in who you are, man, then like, I think that a lot of people who are getting outraged are those that maybe are insecure about something, or not self-assured. It's like, I had a TikTok video that I had posted a while ago, and I didn't go on TikTok for like 2 months, and somebody had commented on the video saying, you're a clown, your perspective is whack, here's what I think. And like a bunch of people in my comment sections like were attacking this dude, defending me, and like, that was kind of cool. But I went on there and I just said, hey, I appreciate your perspective, man. Thank you. I didn't think about it that way. And like his comment didn't affect me at all. And it's like water off a duck, man. Right? Like,
and it's important to acknowledge that like you and I both have insecurity. You and I have both felt insecure at times. We will continue to feel insecure at times. I know. All you got to do is just puff your chest out real good. But it's like, look, like, at different times we don't also show up in the greatest ways ever, and we have our own shit and everything else. But
we are not experts. We're just two regular ass dudes
helping to normalize men's humanity. One experience at a time.
One breakdown at a time. I'm a Barbie girl.
I want to circle you. I want I want to circle back to this other article, and it's just one thing from an article from Psychology Today, which is always an interesting perspective from psychologists and therapists, and it talked about the interesting side of like how they showed Ken's self-esteem. Again, I haven't seen the movie, but they say that like when Barbie looks at Ken, he lights up, and then when she like doesn't pay attention to him, that he falls into this like almost seeming like shame and like self-loathing place, where it's almost that like his self-esteem, right, is like tied to like the girl looking at him, right, and the woman looking at him and like paying attention to him, and then like when that doesn't happen, he feels like rejected, right, and then he goes into his own like interesting place, and like I know that like that's also real, right, and what it says is actually one of the main things that comes up in couples therapy for like real people in the real world, not the Barbie movie, but is like when like the wife or the partner like doesn't look at the man like with love and with care and with lust and these things, like as men we like start to like really fall into this place of shame about who we are and self-loathing, and I don't know, just an interesting like how much our self-esteem is tied to like, and again, you and I can talk about opposite sex because we're heterosexual and we're like attracted to women, but like it could just be like, it could be same sex, it could be right, however you define like what you enjoy in a sexual partner,
whatever, man. Interesting though is after you shared what Psychology Today was referring to, I know exactly what it's talking about, having seen the movie. But while watching the movie, what I saw that as in the movie, in the reference of it being played out on screen, was that Barbie and Ken always go together. You could buy the Barbie on its own, but you could never just buy Ken, right? Like they didn't ever advertise Ken. Ken was always Barbie and Ken. And so like Ken's whole identity was that in the movie was that I am a part of her. So without Barbie, I'm just Ken, and just Ken doesn't have a place in this world. In fact, the maybe second biggest song from the Barbie movie was a song called Just a Ken or Just Ken. And it was talking about just being a Ken without a Barbie. Wow, life is meaningless. I have nothing in this world. And so, in the context of the movie, it was very much, he's just because it's Barbie and Ken. So, as you're talking about this deeper underlying meaning, it's like, okay, could the filmmakers have had that thought while they were making this? Possibly.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for sure. If the song's called Just a Ken, like, yeah, I mean, that sounds.
But is that specifically about human men and their partners? I don't know. I didn't think. I literally wasn't even a thought in my head as I was watching it.
Well, and maybe we
it's just a toy.
Well, yeah, maybe we step out of like, did the director or the composers like do that specifically to identify this, and just say that how often have men that we know, including us at times, I would imagine, having our identities wrapped up in something else.
Oh, for sure.
Now, today, I mean, we won't dive into work and we won't dive into these other things, but which is definitely how we've tied identity before. But like just in a relationship, right? Like how often have we tied our identity as men to this is my girl, this is my partner, this is this. And then if that relationship doesn't work out, then like what happens to us as men?
Right. I mean, I definitely get that. I understand that. I've been there. There are years of my life that I feel like they're not mine, and it's definitely an interesting conversation. I think it probably it definitely goes both ways. I think it's something that women also do. Maybe not as much as men, maybe more. I have no idea. I've never done a census, but I do know women in my life who have kind of tied their self-love to their partner, and that could be a toxic trait, a toxic thing for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it goes on it goes on in this article to talk more about then like what happens to Ken's shame, right? And again, haven't seen the movie, but is that like then apparently then they go into the real world, right?
Yes.
And so then there's this process where Ken like hasn't been getting what he needs from the lady and the attention and right all
So he
this.
gets it
And
elsewhere.
then he goes, oh well, now I can be angry
Yep.
almost, and now I can kind of become in control, and my resentment and all of this.
He clearly
so my
goes through the
shame
stages of
turns
grief.
into anger. It's interesting.
Yeah, I think that whether or not they meant to, it showed the stages of grief. You know, basically him realizing that this person that he loves doesn't love him back, and so now life is over, it's meaningless, and then he's angry, and then he starts feeling ashamed and doesn't know what to do, and then he hops onto something that makes him feel better, and that thing is patriarchy. And then that's where things in the movie went downhill. But that is fascinating, man. And I think if you look at the movie through the lens of a psychologist or a therapist, there's a plethora of wonderful examples put onto film, in this animated Barbie movie about dolls that really represent real human emotions, real human character traits, real human interactions and relationshipal, interactions as well. And it's fascinating that all this outrage out there is that Barbie movie is such a feminist movement, and it's but really, man, like the Barbie movie there's parts of it they're very deep, and there's what's the word I'm looking for?
Well, you talk about depth. Like, of course, you can turn anything like that in depth. It's one of the reasons I love movies more than anything, is because I feel deeply, right?
Yes.
I like something happens in a movie, and I go like, oh, like, that makes me feel something, and then right. And I think probably what we're talking about as it like this idea of like is this movie threatening masculinity, or is it like stealing our masculinity?
Right.
Is humans, we tie stories to everything.
Yeah.
So we have all of this life. I got like 38 years of belief systems and all this shit built up, right? So then I see something, and then my brain tries to make it as simple as possible for me to like understand, right? Instead of saying like all these competing things. And so, for me, it's like when I realize I'm watching a movie and I like shed a tear, it's typically not because the movie makes me cry. The movie elicits something that I've gone through,
an emotional response,
some experience I've gone through that I relate with, and then boom, like I shed a tear, and so it's like the same, right? Like if they're, a lot of what we're seeing in the media around like the masculinity side of this, or the feminist agenda is kind of like, depending on what my belief systems are and how I see the world and all of this, then yes, a movie can be impactful if I'm unaware of it,
Let me ask you this, Chris, is that I personally, I don't get what the Andrew Tates are talking about the homophobic mafia or whatever, or the I don't understand the Piers Morgans out there saying that this is a huge threat to men worldwide.
Well, hold on.
I don't understand that.
Well, hold on. You say Piers. Do we got a video about this?
We do. Here, this.
Let's check that. Let's check this out.
I'll share this.
This is an assault on not just Ken, but all men. There are a number of Barbie characters, right? One plays President Barbie, one plays Dr. Barbie, one plays a Barbie with a Nobel Prize in physics. However, all the male characters in Barbie world are simply called Ken. So it's pretty clear where this movie is going.
I think men in general will have to be a bit kind of snowflakey to suggest they're being assaulted by a Barbie movie. Feminism is rooted in the struggles of ordinary women. Women often get paid less.
The only threat I experienced by going to that movie for real was I told one of my male friends that I was going to go see the Barbie movie and asked him if him and his kid wanted to come with me and my kid. And he asked me, "What are you, gay?" That was the biggest threat to my masculinity was a friend of mine, probably jokingly. I mean, there was some undertone of probably some sincerity in that, but asking me if I was gay for going to watch the movie with my daughter. Outside of that, I don't know what the threat is, Chris. I don't know what this threat that everyone is so up in arms over about the threat to masculinity in men everywhere. What is it?
Yeah, I mean, well, look, that clip gets a little crazy, and I tend to think that like when we start to get into these arguments, things just get like a little crazy and off topic. But like what Pierre said is just, I don't know. It's just it's interesting to me. I liked her first comment that said, I think she used the term snowflakey. That men would feel threatened.
Yes.
Watching a movie about dolls, right? Like that encapsulates it for me. And so to circle back, because I think this is an important question, and then I got one more quote and I want us to move on, is, are you gay if you're a man and you watch the Barbie movie without a child or a significant other?
Oof. I mean, no, obviously no, right? Obviously you can be a straight male and go. I think the question is perception. I think the question is like a perception. Are you perceived as being gay or less manly or more feminine or weaker or etc.?
Bro, I'll throw on a fucking pink shirt and go to Barbie tomorrow, right? Like that means
I literally
nothing.
did that.
Right. It means nothing to me. Right.
No, it doesn't.
And if there's people in my life or in the community that want to have that conversation, I mean, we can have it. But what I wear in the movies I see they don't identify me. That's
your business.
It's not my definition, right? You don't get to define me as a man or any of the people, at least, as I would see it, anybody in this world, by what they decide to wear, right? And this is such a bigger conversation, which is probably another episode in itself. But it's like, what if your male child wants a Barbie doll? Like, I'm gonna fucking buy it for them. If you think that makes me something wrong with me, then look, you can kick rocks. I don't want you in my life.
Totally.
Get the fuck out of here. I don't care if my kid wants to wear pink. I don't care if he wants to play with Barbie dolls. I don't give a shit about none of that.
No.
Right? Because like that's my kid and I'd love them. And
I
want them to feel that they can express themselves in every way possible, which is like what we're doing here, which is like at an adult level, we're saying, hey, we feel things and deep things and we cry and we have these things to like change, like help hopefully engage people in this idea that we can change these stereotypical norms of being a man. But yeah, I mean, I think that that's one of the most fascinating questions ever, is like, I'm not sure I want to have a conversation with you the rest of my life, actually, if you ask me that. Like,
yeah, man, I think just people need to mind their own fucking business too, man. Like straight up, who gives a fuck?
Right.
Who cares?
And you think about it from the other perspective, right? So think about like let's call it an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, or just like a Rambo, like dude out there just shooting people, right? Predator, Alien, like whatever, right?
The good ones.
Would anybody say to a woman who's like, yo, that Schwarzenegger movie was super dope, be like, are you lesbian?
Yeah.
Like you want to go see an action movie? Like, you must be butch.
What are you, like, a transgender man?
Right. It's like such an interesting thing when we flip the script, which is so much what we're talking about today. Is like, it's just so again, that's an important thing. I'm glad that you brought that up because, it's like, to me, right? We're not experts and we're not here defining masculinity for anybody. But for me,
not at all.
It's like, look, I'm going to watch what I want to watch. I'm going to listen to what I want. And if I want to listen to fucking Taylor Swift in a red convertible, driving to the movies, and I want to put some nail polish on and watch it in pink and slippers, then that's fine. That doesn't mean anything about me. Mind your own business. But it doesn't change how I operate in this world.
interestingly, as you're saying all that, there's a lot of hate. There's a lot of men calling for this feminist movement as being a threat to masculinity, when all of the threats that I've seen come from other men, not women.
Oh, 100%.
It was a
Yeah,
man
exactly.
that asked me if I was gay. It's going to be another man who judges another man for going and watching the Barbie movie. It's not going to be a woman.
Sure.
And never. So
Yeah.
that's an interesting tidbit too, man. Is that like we put this label like, oh, feminism is a threat to masculinity, and it's like, really? No, it's more like toxic masculinity is a threat to masculinity.
Yeah. For sure.
You
And
know?
I got one last thing, and I want to run through it, and then I want to see where this goes. But so this is from a Time article that says, Time magazine, that says, by the end of the movie, Barbie and Ken have a serious conversation about their relationship. Barbie makes it clear she's not interested in Ken romantically and urges him to find his own personal passions. The finale not only flips the normal script on the female-centric films, in which a woman discovers she doesn't need a man to find her inner power, like Legally Blonde or Eat, Pray, Love, but offers a commentary on how men ought to reassess their own desires outside of their need for both control and dependence on women.
Damn.
Yeah,
Time
I know.
magazine, bro.
I mean, look, I don't know what side of the agenda they're writing from, but I just thought it was an interesting encapsulation of like this conversation about like,
wow.
We can't tie ourselves to external things, to relationships, to others, for our self-esteem, for our self-efficacy, for any of that stuff. It's like we as men have to find the things that make us happy, and our happiness can't depend upon a woman being in our life or having that perfect relationship or having that perfect thing. It's like, Ken, and we said earlier, like when Barbie doesn't look at him and he kind of gets to this place of shame and rejection and all this stuff, like if we as men have passions and things that light us up, and we are expansive and we're full and we're connected to emotion and life and all of this, it's not to say that rejection won't hurt. Of course it will, but it won't be the single thing that crumbles our foundation.
Yeah, man. It's as you read that quote right now, it reminded me that possibly my only like emotional reaction in the entire movie. Like there's not a lot of that movie that I can relate to personally. And as we kind of touched on, like the reason we cry watching movies is because we have like a personal experience that we identify with the movie, and it creates an emotional response. The only time I had an emotional response in this movie was at the end. And I did find myself, I'll admit it, I found myself tearing up a little bit. And the reason being is because myself, just last year, man, I went through a brutal breakup, divorce. And I was devastated by it. Similar to where Ken was in the middle of the movie when Barbie didn't look at him or pay him attention. I was devastated, man. Couldn't get out of bed, couldn't get off the sofa, couldn't leave the house, like just devastated. And eventually, some people in my life, like you, Chris, and others, lifted me up, man, and redirected me back towards my passions, back towards my purposes in life, back towards the thing that I was excited about, back towards being a father and going to school and working in the field that I work in. And like that got me through that devastating period of my life and allowed me to grieve that relationship properly and then ultimately move on. And the end of the Barbie movie does exactly that. And it couldn't have hit more home personally. And I think that probably a lot of men would identify with that. And and in hindsight, I think it was a really great representation of how that is. Now, the underlying meanings of, subverting Hollywood's norm of the woman, whatever. Sure. I don't know. But personally, yeah, the Barbie movie affected me in an emotional way.
So let's dive into, we've talked about a lot today.
We sure did.
key takeaways. Maybe let's start here first. Let me just ask a question. So I think we've answered it, but to be clear, from your perspective, does the Barbie movie threaten men everywhere?
The Barbie movie does not threaten men anywhere. Men with opinions about the Barbie movie threaten other men. That's the truth.
That's Dr. Rome to all of you out there.
Bam.
Mic drop.
Someday.
Obviously,
what do
I
you
said,
think, Chris?
mic drop. Absolutely not. Completely agree. Don't have anything to add. Men with dumbass opinions and lack of understanding of who they are the threats to masculinity, not
Women,
dolls.
Women too, I guess. But yeah, I think probably more like toxic men with toxic masculinity.
Yeah. So look, key takeaways from today for me are, it's impactful to think about how identity can be tied to
It is
a lady. And as you mentioned, going through relationship, challenges that, I think that's some difficult shit, and how important it is for us to have a sense of self and what makes us happy and what brings us joy and stuff outside of someone else, right?
Yes.
Do I like being in nature?
Yes.
Do I like doing this? Do I like a project? Do I have a hobby? Do I like art? Do I like this? Right? Like the things that bring us joy and keep us happy and stable and grounded, and living a life that's like joyful. Like that's where it's at. And then I can bring somebody in to that. And like, that's what like good partnership probably
Absolutely.
is, and I relate strongly. And I think probably a lot of men out there relate a lot with this idea of like, not getting the look back, not getting the return call, getting ghosted, asking someone out who says no, right? There's a lot of truth in that. So I think that is something to think about. Otherwise, I mean, look, at the end of the day, wearing pink, watching a movie, playing with dolls, none of that makes me gay.
Nah.
None of that is a threat to my masculinity.
Nope.
So those are my key takeaways.
Well said. Well said. Well done. Well said. I guess the key takeaways for me, man, are pretty simple. Is that we're at a place now in society where people are a bit snowflakey, to use that woman's term, snowflakey. And I think that if we spent more time, focused on ourselves, about our own insecurities, our own issues, problems, and be less concerned with how others think or feel or act, that the world would be a far better place. The Barbie movie in my opinion, has nothing to do with masculinity or feminism. It's a movie about dolls made for kids, man. And every kid that I know that has seen the movie loves it and enjoys it. And I kind of liked it. I enjoyed it. I would totally watch it again. And no part of me enjoying it is a threat to my masculinity. It doesn't make me feel less masculine. It doesn't make me feel homosexual. It doesn't make me feel like, it's a movie is media, it's entertainment, and should be viewed as such. I think that comedy and art need to be a safe place. So that being said,
and I'll finish up by saying that also, look, if you're afraid of the women taking over the world, we probably should be, because I think they're probably smarter. They'd probably run it better. There's a whole host of things that women probably do a whole lot
maybe,
better.
I don't know. Who knows, man? But why not give it a try, right? Like,
yep,
maybe it'd be better, maybe not, but why not?
And if you're scared of women being empowered, something you got to take a look at. If you're scared of strong women, something for you to take a look at.
That's probably a threat to your masculinity.
So Rome, we finish up 3 invitations. The ABCs. What's our awareness around this stuff? What are barriers to it? And what's a call to action for our people out there?
I mean, the awareness for me is simply that I how do I say this? I don't think that we should be threatened by, personally, I don't think we should be threatened by anything, but we certainly shouldn't be threatened by a movie or any other form of entertainment. Like that's not a threat to my masculinity. The only true threats to my masculinity are me and my thoughts and my beliefs and my insecurities. That's it. Anything outside of this is not an actual threat
For
to
sure.
me and my masculinity.
So for me, it's simple, right? Like when I watch something, listen to something, view something, I pay attention to what's going on inside of me to find the answer. I don't pay attention to what someone tells me a man's supposed to be or what it's not supposed to be. I have insight. I got a conscience. I know what's right and wrong.
Yes.
I know who I am. Look,
Yes.
and so that's it. I mean, I think the barriers are simple here. I'm not even sure we got to dive into them, right? The barriers are lack of insight. The barriers are I don't want to pay attention to what's going on with me. And I just want to believe that this is a threat or this is this or this is this and confirming that in my head without asking a question or saying, what's this bringing up in me? So,
or like, I don't know, maybe form your own opinions. Don't go to the internet for all your ideas and beliefs. That's Dr. Rome to you.
Lastly, call to action for everybody.
Call to action. Go watch the Barbie movie out in theaters everywhere right now. Go watch it and be threatened.
Well, watch it. Comment below. We want to hear what you have to say.
Yes.
We want to hear what your experience is. All across the board, not just as a threat, but look, the call to action, go see the damn Barbie movie. Everybody's loving it. Just go see it. It's the highest box office hit after The Dark Knight. I mean, excuse me, just surpassed The Dark Knight ever. Go see it.
Crazy.
Go
watch the
sounds
movie.
Like a great comedy.
In fact, Chris is going to lead by example this week. So this weekend, Chris is committed to watching the Barbie movie. Isn't that right?
See. That's absolutely right.
That's right.
Rome, love you, brother. Always good to be here. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment below. We will see you next time.
Hit us up everywhere at the gut level. Everywhere at the gut level. Hit us up. We'll hit you back. Email, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all that. TikTok. Chris, love you. I'm a Barbie girl. Peace. It's the gut level. It's the gut level. Yeah, it's the gut level. It's the gut level.
You have now tuned into the Gut Level Podcast.
For real, actually, since I've watched the Barbie movie, I've noticed that I actually am now gay. Like, since I got out of that movie theater, I can't stop thinking about dicks.